Practice number 9 is in the books. The biggest news of the day, like I expected, Caleb Williams and the starters will not be playing on Thursday night for the Hall of Fame game. It looks like the Texans most likely will also be resting their starters. I think this was a smart decision by the Bears. You don't want Caleb and the starters going up against backups and guys who might not even make the team. It's also just too early in camp. We've only had 1 week of practice and only 2 padded practices with a very young roster. It's also important to remember this is an extra preseason game. The other rookie quarterbacks last year, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Bryce Young, they each only played in 3 preseason games. We still have 3 preseason matchups left after the Hall of Fame game, so there's no reason to even make a big deal out of this at all. Now let's get into some notes and tidbits from practice. I will talk a little bit more about the preseason game later in the video. Nate Davis, Kyler Gordon, Travis Homer, Ian Wheeler, and Jacob Martin all missed practice today. Nasimba Webster would practice for the first time at camp, and he made a nice helmet catch today in 7-on-7s. Webster's a guy who has to stand out in camp and preseason if he wants a shot to make this roster. Good to see him back on the field, though. Something else that I like to see was Velus Jones Jr. got his first reps at running back of training camp. He did get a few reps this offseason during OTAs, but this was the first time I've seen him in the backfield in camp. It's something to keep an eye on going forward. I've always viewed Velus as more of a weapon than an actual wide receiver. He's a guy who's just dangerous with the ball in his hands, but he's not really a polished receiver. Giving him touches out of the backfield and on kick returns is something I've been talking about since we drafted him. So it's good to see Shane Waldron utilizing that in the offense. With Nate Davis out again, we had some continuity on the offensive line. Braxton Jones and Tevin Jenkins on the left side, with Coleman Shelton again at center, and then Ryan Bates and Darnell Wright to round things out on the right side. The longer this continues, the more comfortable I am with Coleman Shelton becoming our starting center. But Matt Eberflus did comment on that in the press conference. He said they still want to get Ryan Bates some snaps at center, even if he's going to be the backup, because he will be our backup center. Bad news for Doug Kramer, who did get some reps with the second team today, which was good to see. But with Eberflus saying that Bates is basically our backup center, even if he's our starting right guard, the chances of keeping Doug Kramer around aren't very high. Also, with Kyler Gordon out again, it was Reddy Stewart, the undrafted free agent, getting more first-team reps at the nickel corner spot. Good to see, and Reddy Stewart is a guy I'm going to be watching all throughout preseason and camp. He's a sleeper to make this roster. But now let's get into it, the Caleb Williams update. After back-to-back practices that weren't his best, Caleb started out practice hot today, firing multiple big-time passes to start off practice and getting the ball out quickly all day long. His best throw of the day was a deep TD pass to DJ Moore, but he also had a beautiful cross-body throw to Steven Carlson and a dime to tight end Gerald Everett in 7-on-7 action. Caleb seemed more decisive today, getting the ball out quick and taking what the defense gave him. It did result in more checkdowns and screen plays than usual, but the offense did look crisp and fluid. There was one false start, but that was it on the day. The Bears defense did seem to be throwing a lot of different looks at Caleb in practice, even sending blitzes more often than I ever remember seeing in training camp. That's something interesting here. It seems like the coaching staff wants to prepare Caleb for what NFL is going to be like, because defensive coordinators love to confuse rookie quarterbacks and throw a ton of different exotic blitz packages at him. Matt Eberflus and Eric Washington seem to be doing that for Caleb Williams early on in training camp. Our coaches simply did not do that for Mitch Trubisky or Justin Fields. The defenses would play base coverage all throughout camp. So this is definitely a new development. All signs point to this coaching staff and the front office actually doing things the right way. Jaquan Brisker did come down with an interception on Caleb in 11-on-11 drills. Caleb would fire one over the middle in a tight window for Cole Kmet, but Brisker jumped the play and came away with the pick. After a hot start by the offense, the defense would end up clamping down and shutting down the offense for the majority of 11 on 11 drills. We have to remember this is a really good defense, and the defensive line was getting constant pressure during team drills, and this offensive line needs to continue to get more work together and gel before I want to expose Caleb to preseason action. But the offense would bounce back, and Caleb Williams finished up the 2-minute drill hot, connecting with Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, and Rome Odunze with 3 straight beautiful completions. One of them was a highlight level throw where he split 2 defenders with a frozen rope to Rome Odunze. Caleb would then end practice with 2 touchdown passes to Rome Odunze. That connection, Caleb and Rome, is going to be special. I've dreamed of watching a stud quarterback develop with a young wide receiver in a Chicago Bears uniform for my entire life. This is the most optimistic I've ever been. I still can't believe we got both of these guys. It's going to be so fun to watch. But a great way to end the day for the rookie quarterback and the entire offense. Today seemed like another day where Caleb was again trying to throw more tight window throws and test his limits. I really love that from our quarterback one. And honestly, thinking back to the last 3 years, I never really saw Justin Fields doing that much in practice. Seemed like he was always trying to be perfect and be exactly what Luke Getsy wanted him to be. It was kind of weird, and it almost didn't seem natural at times, but there's just something different with Caleb Williams. He's comfortable controlling this offense even in his first week of camp, and he's been battling back and forth with a really good defense. He doesn't seem overwhelmed or fazed by the speed and the talent of this defense at all. He hasn't been perfect, but he's been really good every day. I could not be happier with the progress of our #1 pick, and I just hope he continues to look this great once real games get here. But overall, the offense looked more fluid and in rhythm today. Nothing was perfect, but the offense looked more in sync. DeAndre Swift was getting the ball a lot, and he looks great, especially on passes out of the backfield and in space. I'm excited to see him in a Bears uniform this year. If there was a downside for the offense, it came with the second team unit today as the defense dominated them. Tyson Bagent had a tough day as the second team defense was also getting pressure and they were breaking up passes all over the place. Overall, it was just a great day for the defense. Bagent did miss some throws, but he had one of the better passes of the day, throwing a beautiful touchdown pass to tight end Tommy Sweeney. Bagent should get the start on Thursday night, but let's go ahead and move on to the trenches, where Montez Sweat has literally been unblockable all training camp long. He looks even better than he did last year when he was the best player on this roster. He's in his prime, and he seems poised for a huge season. However, some people are now getting worried about Darnell Wright not being able to block him. As of right now, I'm not worried about Darnell Wright at all. I think practicing against Montez Sweat every day is only going to make him better, and his future is still very bright. No reason to panic on Darnell. Meanwhile, Braxton Jones is quietly putting together a very solid camp. He's done very well, and he's looked great in the one-on-one drills, showcasing what looks like a much stronger anchor and base. This is what I was hoping for as Braxton Jones continued to develop and got some time in a real weight room. He had some great reps today versus DeMarcus Walker and Jamry Cromah. I'm excited to see Braxton this year as well. And then Tevin Jenkins continues having a great camp. He's making it really tough on Zach Pickens thus far. Tev was shaken up and came off the field for one play, but he returned and continued dominating. This is a big year for Tev. Meanwhile, Coleman Shelton had a really good day in my opinion. He had some great battles in the one-on-one drills with Andrew Billings, and he's looking pretty solid in team drills. Shelton seems to be pulling away in the center competition if you ask me, but it is still early. Meanwhile, similar story at right guard though, where Javon Dexter has dominated whoever lined up across from him. Whether it was Nate Davis or Ryan Bates, Dexter also seems unblockable at times. I'm not really worried about Bates either. He did have some good battles with Dexter today, and I think he's going to be a part of this offensive line, whether it's at guard or backup center. Really, the only guy who's gotten the better of Javon Dexter, though, has been Tevin Jenkins. I love when those two face off. Meanwhile, I mentioned Doug Kramer was getting second-team reps at center today. It is a positive development for him, although the second-team offensive line did struggle, and Ryan Bates is still the second-team center. But Doug Kramer is going to get a chance in preseason. He's going to be a guy to watch. He should get a ton of reps. The biggest chance for all these backups to impress is going to start Thursday night in the Hall of Fame game, With the starters being out, there are going to be a ton of reps for backup guys and players fighting for jobs. Eberflus specifically mentioned Bill Murray as a guy having a great camp. I expect him to play a lot Thursday night. I think Tyson Bagent will be the starting quarterback, with probably Tyler Scott, Velus Jones, and Dante Pettis at wide receiver. I'm really hoping that our rookie undrafted quarterback, Austin Reed, gets a ton of action in this one. And I'm also really excited to see Zach Pickens. I'm hoping he starts the game and plays a lot. I'm excited for Bears football, and there are a ton of guys in this one I'll be watching. I'll probably drop a video tomorrow night on the guys to watch in Thursday night's preseason game, but Eberflus did decline on whether Caleb would play next week against the Bills. He said it's week to week and they'll announce that decision when it's time. No reason to panic here, guys. I still expect Caleb to get 45 to 60 reps during preseason. That's been the plan all along. I do think he starts next week against the Bills. He probably won't play a lot, though. That's it for today's practice. Another one without pads, and it was a walkthrough pace, nothing to overreact about. We are 2 days away from preseason football, and Devin Hester and Mongo getting their gold jackets, and 1 week away from the Bears' Hard Knocks. I appreciate everyone who watches. Please remember to hit that like button for me, guys. Stay tuned, and until next time, bear down.